Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs or professionals that can help you go all in on your business. We talk to people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all the things that we experience as small business owners, and have come on the platform to share those skills and experiences with us so that we can run our businesses more effectively. So, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the time that you shared with me on the phone originally. I think that your business model is brilliant, and really, we don't talk enough about really where your expertise lie in the timeline of businesses. But I appreciate you sharing the time with the audience too. You know, any advice, any perspective, any experiences that we can lean on and apply to our own business is very valuable. So thanks for coming on Burn the Ship, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Bailey. This is awesome. And thank you for the call. That was kind of nice and refreshing because it kind of prepared me for today. And I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Yeah, no problem.
Even though you were stuck in traffic, you still made it. And
Yeah, oh yeah. That
and
was
I
a long
appreciate
day. I
that.
was coming back from Warner Robins. I think I'd driven probably for 6 hours in one day.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a long one. That's not typical for me. It was a long day.
Yeah. Working. I pretty much work remote. So yeah, my morning drive is usually a walk to the coffee maker.
Yeah, no, I can get behind that. I subscribe to that lifestyle.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me on. My name is Jaime Jay. I am the CEO and founder of Bottlekneck Distant Assistants. Um, and I'm also an author of a book called Quit Repeating Yourself: How Today Business Leaders uh, Use Systems and Processes to Build Their Business the Right Way. So I'm a big advocate, big fan of systemizing my business. And holy cow, with me turning 55 this year at the time of this recording, it's been a long ride. I probably kept my systems and processes that were drilled into my head as a paratrooper for the 82nd, and everything had its place and had its
Sure,
process, and they were sticklers, either go or no go. If you had to follow it exactly to the
sure,
T, and I think that kind of carried along with me. Spent about 12 years in corporate America, and about took me about 11 years to figure out how to get out of corporate America. And
sure.
about this month exactly, as recording this, it's in March of 2025. It's been 20 years since I hired my first assistant from the Philippines. So I've learned a lot about it over the last 2 decades. And what I've found that sits at the forefront of my brain is how important systems and processes are. And I've actually been forced into it, so to speak, because of the distant relationships that we maintain. And so it's even more important or more prudent to systemize the businesses. So that's a little bit about me and kind of what I'm up to.
Sure. Yeah, I think what's very unique about your industry, and I think in a second we'll talk a little bit about what makes your company a little bit different than what typically might pop into people's mind when they think about your industry.
Sure.
Um, my we're so like ingrained in the small business world in the payment space, right? Like we are your traditional door-to-door salespeople, especially at the beginning of our career. I mean, like myself, I've been doing this for like 10 years, so I've kind of graduated into that space of being able to network and maintain relationships that help me grow my business. But it was a true small business model. You build a network of people around you, and those people send you referrals or look for opportunities for you, and you for them the same way, right? And so really what since COVID, one, we've had kind of the firepower in the payment space to compete, but two is we run across these companies, especially in Atlanta, that are just these hyper growth type of companies. I mean, they're growing 10,000% in the first year. They're getting seed rounds or funded or purchased by investment companies, and somewhere along the way we enter the payments conversation and we realize that I like part of what I had to learn, or part of what I had to update myself in, was how to speak to these people and how to move at the same speed as these people that are just growing super super rapidly. So tell me one about kind of what separates you in your industry, right? Because you told me a little bit about it on your phone, and really from your website and reading kind of your branding, it's very very clear, right? But to talk to me about what is changing in the business world that makes your industry so much bigger now in the last dozen years than, what, at least from my understanding, it was previously.
Yeah. So, boy, if we talk about the last dozen years, I mean, when I first hired my assistants in 2005, I had a partner, he and I had an advertising agency. And so in an advertising agency, there's a lot of design, there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of planning and all that stuff. And we used a 9600 baud rate fax machine to receive, design proofs and stuff like that. Like the technology today is just leaps and bounds ahead of where it used to be. But if I look back for probably 12 years, I would do the same thing. I would say that the technology is so different. I think the biggest change came with COVID when everybody was forced to learn what to do out of their homes because everybody was locked down. And most of the people during that time didn't even know what Zoom was. They didn't
Right.
know what Loom was. They didn't know any of that stuff. And and even since COVID, Zoom has improved dramatically, right?
Sure.
But I've been living like that for 20 years, so it wasn't a big change for me. But what I found was a lot of people didn't know how to overcome and adapt. And many businesses failed during
Sure.
in the last couple of years because they didn't know how to react. In 2008, if you remember 2008, we had a massive real estate bubble burst, a
I
major
do remember. Yeah.
crisis. Where I lived at the time in California, 1 in 3 homes went into foreclosure. It was
Oh, wow.
crazy. And at that time, I wasn't uh, a big a proponent of systems and processes as I am now, but that forced me into that because I lost the business.
Sure.
We ended up losing that business. We went under, all of our clients gone in like 60, 90 days. And it was like 72 clients were just the first thing they cut was marketing.
Right.
Then the second thing they cut is they start laying people off.
Right.
Well, I was in the business of marketing and advertising. And so we were one of the first to go. And that made me think it's not that I am going to alleviate that from ever happening again, because you can never see what's happening in the future. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself in a position to mitigate that or minimize the risk or the chance of that occurring again. Because I do not want to man, I lost my business. I moved back in with my parents. It was
Right.
devastating, right? Like I just kind of lost everything, and that feeling is kind of a driver for me not to allow that to happen again. And so I think systems and processes are what we've found um, that is by all means the everything when it comes to maintaining a business efficiency. So that's probably the biggest change that I've seen over from a decade ago to now. And a lot more companies are realizing how important the systems and processes are. And now it's a lot easier to build those again with the technology and the assistance that we provide.
Right. So tell me this, kind of part two to that question is what makes you different from your industry, right? We talked a little bit about the catalyst for growth in your industry and why operating in that landscape has become so much more on the forefront of people's minds because of the pandemic, right? But I think what people don't really know unless you're kind of in the industry or you have some buying experience is that there is a spectrum of solutions in your industry and not all of them are created equal. So tell us a little bit about what makes your company unique.
So we are big fans, and thank you for that question. I would say probably the biggest impact to us was understanding category design. Category design. I'm good friends with a gentleman by the name of Christopher Lochhead, who some people refer to as the godfather of category design. He was one of the 4 authors of Play Bigger that have gone on to sell just hundreds of thousands of copies of that book, and that
Oh,
was kind of our blueprint for the discussions that we had. So what makes our company unique is we're the world's first dedicated distant assistant company. We call our assistants distant assistants, and they're remote based in either the Philippines or Nicaragua. We have South Africa. But what the industry is familiar with is a term called virtual assistants. And
Right.
what we were having challenges with initially was people understanding that we have real, live, highly tech enabled human beings to perform any type of administrivia. And administrivia is any administrative support for the main functions of an organization, i.e., leadership,
Right.
strategy, sales, marketing. Those are all areas that we don't create in, but we support. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Oh yeah.
So
It's
the
such a good word, by the way.
oh, thank you, thank
It's
you.
such a good word.
So the biggest differentiators are a virtual assistant will come to Bottleneck. They will go through a dedicated distant assistant training certification, which is DDATC. And what they do is they get certified as they become a distant assistant. They get certified as a distant assistant. And what does that mean? We train on a couple things over and beyond what their skill set is. So we offer 6 roles here: executive assistant. We offer success managers like sales support. We offer customer service, bookkeepers, project coordinators, and social media coordinators. Those are the 6 roles we've identified that, number one, and this came through a study from a software company. A friend of mine he was the CEO of a software company with 230 people. They were all sent home, right, when COVID happened. And this software company, I'm not sure, are you familiar how the coders are judged on their performance? What they do is they're judged on a line of code. How many lines of code do they write in a day? This is crazy story, but when they got sent home, the programmers, coders, increased productivity on the lines of code by 78%.
Wow.
Amazing. And so you would automatically think, man, they're going to make all these updates. They're going to be offering new versions. All this stuff's coming out. The problem was they started missing their deadlines, and they were like, how is this possible? Well, what they found out was when one software developer would send in their code, another software developer would send in their code. And when they tried to merge the two together, there was a lot of bugs because they were
Right.
working independently. And what they found out is they lost that in office kind of collaborative effect,
Right.
right? Where they could do it on the fly. Oh, there's a bug. Oh, let's tweak that. And it would get done quicker. They
Right.
weren't as productive, but they were much more efficient. And so, in order for a company to grow effectively, you've got to have those two things. You've got to have good productivity and you've got to have good efficiency levels. The third aspect is that social element, that social aspect that we as human beings kind of cling to. You know, we want to be around other people for the most part, right?
Right.
You have the water cooler talks and that kind of thing. That was missing too. And so when they brought everybody back in, they would alternate days and have a couple overlaps between marketing and sales and development. But they identified 6 roles that not only increased their productivity levels, not only increased their efficiency levels, but also didn't mind the social impact that occurred from being remote. And those are the 6 roles that we offer today. So all of the distant assistants that come into our organization within the first 6 months, the number one differentiator is they document every single task delegated to them down to the click of a mouse button. And what they do is they produce a workflow manual for all of those tasks, written out step by step instructions, give those back. And now that is our client's asset. They own that. And what we found is most of our clients don't have either an updated or as detailed as necessary as needed workflow manual, including all of the processes that they're delegating. And the challenge with that is
100%.
twofold. Yeah, there's 2 things with that. Do you have any questions before I go on?
Oh no, I know I can relate.
Okay,
Genuinely. I
okay.
can relate. I'm working with those exact um but because the people that we're working with, like, there's usually kind of some impulse to talk credit card processing, you know what I mean? Which is like, my business is growing and I got the highest bill ever, you know what I mean? So like I can relate to exactly those areas where they struggle, because there are times where you flex your muscles and there are times where you give a little, you know what I mean? So like I can relate. Like I've just never thought about categorizing those things, but I can literally relate to what those people are experiencing.
Yeah, perfect. I'm glad that you see that. And hopefully the audience is kind of thinking of things right now like, Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Sure.
There's a couple things that are associated with this that could be detrimental to your organization if you don't document your
Right.
processes, right? And it's all those things that drain you of energy, um, that you don't really like doing, that doesn't give you that energy, that you do yourself, and it takes you away from core responsibilities, either focusing on revenue generating opportunities, whatever that core focus is, whatever those things are that you don't necessarily like about it, do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it. And this
Right.
is really important, meaning document that. So open up your Zoom or Loom and screen share and say, this is what I do for this and this and this and this. And you're starting to build your library of your SOPs, your standard operating procedures. And what that will do is is if you get sick, or if you have somebody that's working with you and they go on vacation for 2 weeks and you're scurrying around trying to figure out what they're doing, or where's that one file? I need that file for this client in order to close this deal. And you can't find stuff. Well, if it's documented, anybody can take over. And that's why it's so important to be detailed in that aspect of every time you click the mouse button. And it's really important because if you miss a click there, you may get lost in whatever software you're working in or
Right.
whatever thing you're doing. So it's really important to have that. The second part of that, and I don't know about you, but at one point, in the future, I would love to be able to exit and sell this business instead of just walking away. I've invested all this time and energy. We built an amazing team. It should be payday for us, right?
Yeah.
At some
It should be
point.
worth something. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you've heard about CEOs that have had sold their business and they've stayed on for 6 months or a year or 18 months, some kind of a transitionary process. The reason that is because that business doesn't really work without that CEO,
Right.
because they know everything. A lot of stuff is in their brain. If you are to document everything, you make yourself replaceable. And what happens is you realize a higher valuation because now you're not needed. You can just walk away and exit that organization. And so many of us, with what is it, 91% of all businesses in the US are small business. I would
Yeah.
almost say 91% of those businesses do not have their documentation and processes in order,
Right.
right? So you can just imagine just those things from our distant assistants having that knowledge and capability. That's just one of the differentiators. Another differentiator is they're all trained in delegation management. So if you hire somebody, I'll call it the golden goose. Say you hire a rock star executive assistant because you're so busy, you need help with your scheduling, your emails, and you need them to do research for you so you could
Yeah.
talk to your clients and stuff like that. Well, maybe you need them to you've done a video or you did a podcast and you don't have time to edit it, or you don't have time to create all of the assets for a particular episode and then publish those on social media. In order to maintain the integrity of your brand, Bailey, like
Right.
your business brand, which is way up here, if you ask an executive assistant to go to Photoshop or something like that and design an image for you and then take your video and edit it and put on an animated intro and an outro and lower thirds and then upload it to YouTube, then add a page on your website and upload it to the executive assistant does not have that skill set.
Right.
So what we've done is we've trained them in delegation management to where they can delegate those tasks to my internal team of audio editors, video editors, graphic designers, web developers. And because they're a distant assistant, not a virtual assistant, they understand who you are. They understand your beliefs, your core values, your vision, your mission, especially your brand guidelines. So now they become like a quality control mechanism. And when they send that off to our internal team, that video will come back. They'll check it for misspellings, or hey, this isn't right. Hey, this is cut off too soon. Hey, this should, this is not their brand colors. This is their brand colors, all that stuff. But they'll go back and forth, not you, so that when they do present the final product to you, now you're looking at it. You're not going to have to worry about taking all the
Right.
time going back with that stuff. You'll just be able to look at it and say, oh, you know what? Add this and this in there. Okay, no
Right.
problem. And now you're getting a really high level to protect the integrity of your brand of graphic design, editing, all stuff like that. So those are just two of the differentiators, but I could go on and on. I've been talking a little long now.
Sure. No, yeah, I mean the level of consistency that you strive for in your brand, like you work hard enough to be recognized, and so your brand needs to be consistent. The way that you deliver your work needs to be consistent. And I have been in the helping train salespeople space long enough to understand the value of precise and accurate and updated documentation when it comes to the workflow of your business, right? When it comes to like things like how we're using our own internal technology to manage our pipeline of clients, right? Like, I don't know the number, but you spend X number of years, you know, especially like if you put it in your own industry, you spend X number of years explaining technology to people that are new hires or contractors that are working, or whatever that may be, or things may change and you're helping your other sales reps and employees. So the one value of those systems and processes cannot be valued enough, because it gives you the freedom to do that revenue generating opportunity as often as possible. And if you're going to be doing that revenue generating function of your business as much as you can, the value of people recognizing your brand and recognizing good consistent work also invaluable, right? Like also impossible to put a number on, because people seeing that consistency is what makes people buy from you, right? And so it comes down to the support systems of the integral functions of your business and how you can support those things. I when I was hired at my company, there were the two owners of my company and myself as our very first sales rep, right? And we shortly after added a customer service person because of onboarding clients and things like that. But now there's like 15 of us. So take it from me, I don't own my payments company. I was the documentation. You know what I mean? Like I was the systems and processes that we developed over 10 years. That now that training process, I think for us took almost 3 months when we started hiring like our second and third salesperson. And now it takes us 14 days. So like that
Amazing.
that growth period that you go over, don't let it take 8 years. You know what I mean? Like begin with the end in mind, begin with scale and growth in mind, and knock those things out of the way, that so you can spend your time and efforts creating momentum. You know what I mean? So I can understand completely where you're coming from, and definitely you're right. The industry is used to the term virtual assistants, right? They're used to the idea that you don't exactly understand who you're talking to or what exactly their skill set is. If you are in the retail space, if you are in the e-commerce space, if you are all of these different things where your brand integrity matters so much to you, that is not a good solution for you, because you're not going to be able to uphold those same standards that you have spent countless hours looking at packaging for, and looking at boxes and what clothing lines you're going to carry and how they're presented on your website and webhooks and workflows and how to get in touch with your customers. You do so many other things that letting that one thing lack, letting your support system for the administrivia,
Yeah.
is nonsensical, right? Like it's more costly than those things put together for the most part. It's just having that shortcoming in your business is sometimes unrecoverable. And that's just coming from experience as a salesperson, right? Like looking at things from the financial side, looking in. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. It's not, I would imagine there's more changes coming in your industry as well, right? Like I'm imagining that larger players are entering the space and multiple solutions, kind of like everybody used a local credit card processor or their bank back in the day. And now there's some really, really large players in my space. Is that kind of the same thing that you're experiencing in your industry?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, when you look to somewhere like the Philippines or South America, Central America, even Eastern Europe, these agencies are popping up everywhere, and they have, 500 to 10,000 people working for a particular agency, right? And so the growth is
Wow.
just astronomical. Now,
Sure.
usually those big companies are call centers, right?
Yeah, sure.
So a lot of the virtual assistants used to work in a call center. And even in the virtual assistant space, or now what I like to refer to as the distant assistant space, the assistant space is growing by leaps and bounds. There's companies popping up all the time now. The biggest challenge I think I see with this, you probably can relate to this, is um, everybody has their own little kind of focus. And then some agents you see come out and say, oh, we can do everything for everyone. And we're trying to kind of get away from that. We have 6 roles. We focus on 4 different industries, and we try to be really specific with our messaging. And so I think one of the biggest challenges in growing in this space is just educating people. And one of the other challenges that we have is people are still kind of not familiar, especially with Bottleneck, but the industry in
Sure.
general. We get a lot of people that have said, we've never hired a remote assistant before, so this is our first time. And can they speak English? And you know, I mean, How do I talk to them? And how do I know that they're going to show up for work and they're not working for somebody else? And there's all these thoughts that creep into their mind, understandably so. You want to know what you're kind
Sure.
of getting into. And I feel that our industry has to do a much better job of educating people on setting their expectations. Number one, first and foremost, if you hire somebody in-house as an employee, you're paying taxes on that person. You're paying FICA. You're paying unemployment insurance. And then if that person decides to leave, you're paying that person for whatever 6 months or whatever. So it's challenging. It costs nearly $5,000 to hire somebody in the U.S. right now, just for hiring. There's other hidden costs, but just hiring somebody. To let somebody go, if somebody quits or you fire somebody, that could cost you up to 9 months' salary. So it's important that you set expectations and you educate the world correctly here in the USA on the specifics of hiring, and then the specifics of hiring somebody remotely, because there's a little bit of a different kind of process that goes on. But
Sure.
that's why I feel that Bottleneck provides such good value, because we kind of guide them along in that process. They're not just going
Sure.
off on their own, hiring somebody in Manila or
Sure.
somewhere
Yeah.
in Nicaragua. We have a buddy system in place. We've got all these systems and processes in place. We have an incredible vetting service, and I'm proud to say in the last 2 decades I've been doing this, there's never been one instance of data theft or otherwise. We're fully insured, which is hard to believe. We're even HIPAA compliant. And if you can
Sure.
imagine how hard it is to get HIPAA compliancy for a remote-based
No,
business.
no, I can imagine how hard it is to get HIPAA compliancy. I speak that language as well.
Yeah, so I'd say that's probably the biggest challenges that we're facing right now in the industry, but we're overcoming a lot of that. And again, it's all about the process. And if I can say one last thing, it's the best time to start systemizing your business is kind of like, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago.
Sure.
What's the next best time? Today, right? So
Sure.
yeah, I just start doing that and start breaking it down. Plus, a lot of times too, the people that need the systems and processes in place, they know it. It's one of those things. I know I need to get there. I know I need to do that. I don't have the time to do it. I've got all this other stuff I'm working on that takes priority. Well, that's why a distant assistant is so critical.
Yeah, and I position it to people like that same problem. I have a unique perspective on that as well, which is you want to systemize your business, and the perception is that you don't have time, and for a lot of people that is very much so true. But what I've come to find out later in my career in my industry is that a lot of times it's just that people don't know how to do those things, right? Like it's just a genuine, like I may have some idea of what I want to accomplish when it comes to systemizing my business, but I don't know how to do that problem solving in my head efficiently enough for me to feel like that was a good use of my time, right?
It's
Like
one of those, you don't know what you don't know.
exactly, and that's no fault of anyone's. Like no, it's learned behavior. You know what I mean? But that goes to speak more to if you're in the business world. Like for us to look at it at a 30,000 foot view, just don't do it alone. Ask questions, talk to service providers. I know that there are a bunch of salespeople out there that want to sell you stuff, but I can speak for my company and I can speak for a lot of people that are in our network and have been on Burn the Ship and Jamie and just a bunch of people that we're connected with that genuinely will give you sound advice and perspective just because they relate to you as a small business owner. Like I have I've been in my industry long enough now where I've had clients for 10 years, right? Like I've had a client where their kids were 2 and now their kids are in middle school. You know what I mean? Like as weird as that is to say, but genuinely there are so many good. I would imagine that the people that are like hardcore salespeople and don't really care. I would imagine that's like an incredibly small percentage of the population of people that are in the business services space. So if people are telling you they want to help your business, ask a bunch of questions, understand what the value is, and if there is some benefit to you, jump in. But for people like Jamie and myself, I mean, we want to share these experiences with you because we don't want you to go through all the same learning curves and problems and things to resolve that we went through. It's a very genuine thing. So I appreciate you being a part of that community. Um, at the end of the day, there's always going to be things that you can make you improve in your business or problems that you can resolve and people that you're going to need to hire to do those things because there's no one out there that can do it all by themselves. And so I'm glad to be able to connect you with the audience, Jamie. I'm glad to be
Thank
able
you.
to connect you with some people from my network, and I hope that some people ask some questions, take you up on some of that stuff, and see what value there is to have for themselves. But how can we support you? Is it a content thing? Is it a book thing? Is it what is that thing that both my audience and myself can do for you outside of connecting you with people in our network we feel may be valuable introductions?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's awfully kind, and I appreciate it. I the, the biggest thing probably is to take a look at where you're at and understand where you're at in your business and maybe do a brain dump and just spend about 20, 30 minutes, and plan this out, like schedule it. And if it's on the weekend and you have family, let them know in advance. Tell your wife or your husband or boyfriend or girlfriend or kids, hey, I need, Saturday morning from 10 to 11, I'm going to be focusing on this. So I just want to let you guys know in advance. Don't pop it on them that morning, right? Because
Right.
they have some honeydews or something like that. But I would say probably the biggest thing that people can do for themselves, which ultimately is what I am hoping they will do, is just do a brain dump of list of priorities of tasks that they need to complete. Assign two values to each one of those tasks. Number one, is it something that they must do? Is it something you must do? Or can you delegate that to someone else? And the second thing is, does that particular task give you energy or drain you of energy? What that will do is that will actually create a subset task list of all the tasks that you can delegate that drain you of energy. And then that way you can look at the primary list and go, wow, this is a lot of tasks. I really like doing all of this stuff. This is where I want to be spending my time, not on this list. So on the list, the subset task list that you've created that drain you of energy and that you can delegate to someone else, those are the ones that I would focus on documenting your processes first. Remember that I said do something as if it was the last thing you ever did. That's
Right.
because if you could just trudge through that mud one more time, you could get it off your desk and never have to do that thing that brings you down. Like, I don't know if you've ever had those days, but you wake up in the morning, you're like,
Sure.
I got to do this dang campaign today. And but you'd rather be
Sure.
spending time doing something else. That's exactly what this will do. And in a matter of 20 or 30 minutes, you'll gain so much clarity out of that you'll be able to say, okay, now I got a game plan. How do I get to where I really want to focus on the stuff I can do and enjoy versus getting rid of all this stuff that I just really don't like, but I know it's important,
Right.
right? Now all of a sudden, you make life way more enjoyable. You're having a lot more fun because you're focused on all the things you're doing, and you have the confidence to know that you're going to be delegating all of this stuff because it's out of your head, it's written down, or it's in a video exactly what you do in order to accomplish those tasks. And here's the best kicker of all. When you delegate that task to someone else, you're not focused on that anymore. You're focused on
Right.
this stuff. They whomever's performing the tasks will most likely be able to find improvements to that process to either shorten the life cycle, reduce overhead, whatever that may be. And you're the whole time, it's a win-win situation. The whole time you're focused on doing what you love. And so I just think that's probably what I would like to see more people do and take a little bit of time for themselves, because I believe in life balance, not work-life balance. Life balance is enjoying every aspect of your life. If you're going to be going to work, why not enjoy going to work? Why not be present there? Why not go, I got to work? You know, I had
Right.
my brother-in-law stop by at lunch today and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm working." I'm excited. I got a podcast to go on. I said, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm riding my motorcycle, but I got to go to work tonight, you know? And he was not happy about going to work.
Sure.
And I was like, I just felt bad, like you got to enjoy that stuff. So take 20 or 30 minutes for yourself, figure it out, do that little brain dump. And I almost liken it to a delegation roadmap. And,
Sure.
and I think that speak volumes. And then if you want to learn more about me, you can always go buy my book, Quit Repeating Yourself. I think the digital copy is 99 cents. But it's anywhere you want to buy books. And if you want to learn more about Bottleneck, you can go to bottleneck.online. And that's everything that we have there. We use generative AI and we leverage your enriched data so that you can take the delegation IQ blueprint, enter in your name and all that stuff, choose whether you want to answer the questions, and it takes about 5 minutes, answer the questions using your voice, or you can type. And then what we'll do is we'll send you a hiring assessment, a 10-page report of sorts that's unique to you. And what's really cool about that is it says, these are your challenges. This is how to overcome your challenges. And then it paints you a picture of what life's going to be like after you hire your assistant.
Oh, really? That's really really cool actually. Yeah, I want to get a visual look at that. Thank you for your time again.
Thank
Before
you.
I carry away my words, I think that is incredible advice to sit down for 20 or 30 minutes and get your thoughts and tasks out on paper about your business. I'm probably due for one of those sessions myself, to be completely honest. There's a lot of support and there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things going on in your business. It's a super complex problem with a million moving pieces, and it's not going to get any simpler as you continue to grow. So, I think that systemizing your business is one of the things that you're going to have to get ahead of, and there's going to be times where you have to make peace. There's going to be times where some things just take work, or some things you're going to have to look after. But if you can delegate a lot of the things and get it out of the way that you can delegate to other people, and understand what to focus on and understand what is important to you in your business, I promise that the day-to-day gets so much easier. I mean, over literally 8 years, I think, the way I felt about my industry and work for me changed, because I understood, one, how to do things efficiently that I didn't want to do, and I knew how to maximize the times doing the things that gave me energy, especially as a salesperson. It's so important. So as you were saying that as well, I have a friend that I want to connect you with. I think you guys might speak a little bit of the same language and be
Ah,
pretty good referral partners for one another.
yeah, that would be awesome.
But for you guys in the audience, we'll have the contact information, how to get in touch with Jamie, where to find it, where to find the information, all down in the description. So please check that out. If there's anything that we can do for you in the meantime, please let me know. But work hard out there and burn the ship.